This is not an ideal example of this. But there's been a lot of commentary lately about Dahaka versus Illidan in lane. And, sound levels. I'm gonna take these off and mute it for you guys so you don't have to listen to it. And last year, Rich, you know, obviously one of the best Illidan players of all time, actually lost to a Dahaka, Chinese Dahaka in lane. It's kind of... I really hate the default UI. Have I mentioned that? Constantly locking my camera and forcing me to be on a hero. And it was on Dragonshire. It was right here. Because his team had gotten one of Dragon Knight, a Dragon Knight had actually killed the fort, so the soul lane was actually pushed all the way up to here. But outside of interference, the lane pretty much tied, and Rich actually died to isolation into drag right here. 1v1 versus Dahaka. Since then, Dahaka's early game has been modified considerably. First his wave cleared out worse, and then it got arguably the same, because now it's the same number of auto attacks to clear a wave. And his damage to heroes actually increased in that time period. Plus he got his race car, you know, he got his cool gimmick. So the matchup was pretty even before. It was very much a skill matchup. It could be won or lost. And then Dahaka got better and Illidan stayed the same. So it should be, if it was a skill matchup before and Dahaka got better, if it's still a skill matchup, it should now be slightly more in Dahaka's favor. But for some reason, in an A, and only in an A, we've seen Illidan consistently winning the lane. We saw it on Naventic. Zuna won the lane. We saw Michael Udall win the lane. I think it was Zuna. Could be wrong about that. I think maybe thinking of a different game. But we've been seeing Illidan win the lane against the Dahaka, which doesn't really make sense to me. And again, this is not going to be the best example because there is a global in play that's going to come out to help, come in to help quite a bit. There's a Genji in play, but I want to see if we can look at the matchup when it's just Illidan versus Dahaka and figure out. Just call me Royce. Thank you for the host. So we have some nonsense middle laning going on. We don't care about that. We only care about this top lane up here. So Rich goes on, gets stunned, takes some damage, but that's about... Oof. Nicely done. I was going to say, that's about a globe plus a minion wave's worth of minion waves healing with the damage, so he's not actually taking too much more damage than he can deal with. Swoi is basically forced to come in to save Zhonghan. I'm not sure that was necessary. Essence already popped. And again, I'm going to comment on the fact that I can't use the good UI, all these UI, because if I had the good UI, I could click on Zhonghan here and know how much Essence he has. But I can't do that, unfortunately. Were they landing the dragon in A? I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna leave that as an exercise for the viewer. No, they weren't. Okay. Bearing in mind that whenever Illidan dives a target, you know he's going to be directly behind you. And indeed, when I was talking earlier about Rich losing because of the isolation kill, he died because he dove onto the Dahaka and the Dahaka isolation to behind himself and then dragged. Like, if Illidan dives onto a target, you know precisely where he's going to be in about a half a second because that's the animation time. Which means if you have an ability that has a 1/4 second windup and your at reaction time is 0.2 seconds, then you have a whole like 0.05 second window where you can know what you're doing. I think you can use numbers 1 to 10 select heroes. It only selects... Oh, it does select the damage. So 22 essence right now. This is all I really care about. Is Dahaka's essence. I like Ollie's UI better. Like I'm really familiar with how to use Ollie's UI, and the features on it are just better. So I never really got good at using the default UI. Although it appears like the default UI features have improved because you didn't used to be able to do that. If you did, like if you selected Sonya and she'd taken Ferocious Healing, you would only see Ferocious Healing on Sonya. You wouldn't see her other abilities. You would just see her number bar. A little bit frustrating. So you're going to see Reset coming up to help since this is currently a 2v1 onto Rich. Rich doing immolation things, getting them clear. We see Polymorph coming out early, trying to deny the angle on the W there. Not going to work. Zhongha comes in. We're going to see Rich, and there's the drag again. And yeah, every time that drag hits, a lot of damage is done. Rich with the friend or foe, nice escape onto the Reset there. If he'd gotten hit by that, that actually would have been a significant amount of damage because it would have been the center hit from Brightwing. And, you know, Illidan has some amount of HP. We don't know how much HP he has. If I let it play, do I actually get to see? He has 1931 HP at this level, and Brightwing's center hit does, I think, 300 damage? Yeah, 300 damage at this level. So it actually does, you know, about a fifth of his HP if it hits. And he was already at half, so that would have done a significant amount of damage. Reset's just gonna... Well, actually, no, yeah, okay, he's gonna... I was gonna say, Reset's just gonna hold the lane for a second until Illidan gets back. Does he do the camp? Yeah, he does the camp. So he's gonna hold the lane while Rich does the camp. This is something, by the way, whenever you have Illidan as a solo laner, you should always think about. Illidan can do a camp. If you can't do a camp, you should go hold the lane for a single wave so that Illidan can do the camp. If you're like an assassin or an off bruiser or whatever, like unless you're desperately necessary for the 4-man, letting Illidan use the fact that he can solo camps really efficiently while you hold the lane for a second and then he comes back, it's a good tactic. That applies to Sonya to some degree as well. Anytime you have a solo laner who can efficiently do camps and you have someone on the team who can't efficiently do camps and isn't necessary for the 4-man. So far we've seen Illidan do nothing but take damage. He has always managed to get away. He's never died. But we've yet to see Illidan pressure in, and you know it's only been a 1v1 twice briefly because of Swag coming up and then because of Reset coming up. Another nice drag. Zhongha just doesn't miss drags. Apparently Reset taking a ton of free damage from the towers. And here's where we get to a point where I think Illidan will actually start to do a significant amount of damage in the lane. If he already has a Merc camp pushing, his ability to siege into towers safely is pretty significant, but he does take a significant amount of damage there. He's afraid of the CC, and he ends up backing up. And he goes to tap. I'm wondering if he would have backed up there if it had just been Dahaka and not the Brightwing and Dahaka. I feel like Dahaka doesn't have damage, that it was still risky to stay. Especially with 7 coming up. If we see Feeding Frenzy picked up, which I think we do, this game. So Feeding Frenzy, now you can get multiple drags on Illidan. We've seen every drag that's hit has actually just destroyed, like absolutely destroyed Rich. It's done so much damage. So now you have a drag like every 5 or 6 seconds, basically, and it, you know, it stuns for 1.75 seconds, which means that you're CC'd like in a straight up fight. If you're just 1v1ing Dahaka and not going in and out, you're CC'd like a good portion of the time. Sway takes a lot of free damage there. But has have available, and should have the global available shortly. Reach can stay at full health. Looks like we're going for... Oh, the double global is going down for the fight. Ooh, Sixus gets erased. Genji gets erased as well. And Illidan does the correct thing. This is what you should do whenever you're solo laning as Illidan and you're left alone in the lane or you're winning the lane. You have evasion. You should go in and drain as much ammo as possible. Like, even here, Like he's getting the tower. He could have got some free damage on the well, I think, and drained some damage from the fort. It would have left him a little overextended, but he knew they weren't going to be back for at least 15 seconds. So that's 2 evasions. That's what, 4 shots per evasion, I think. So it's 8 shots of ammo drained. It's not a huge amount, but if he could have gotten the well off of it, that would have been really, really significant. Anytime you can kill the well in your opponent's lane, in the soul lane, it's a pretty big advantage. And here we have it. Okay, so here we finally have a 1v1. Notice that Illidan's wave clear with Immolation is just like a little tiny bit better than Dahaka's. It's not like a huge difference, but unless he's actively trying to clear the wave, he will take some damage just from the wave. That's a really common thing to focus on whenever you have better wave clear than your opponent in a soul lane, because if they stand there, then they're taking damage from the minion wave and you. So one of the reasons, sometimes Zag, for instance, will have to take Infest to not die in your lane, and she'll focus on clearing the lane, and then the infested archers will help her put significant damage on her opposite number in lane. For instance, you will get dumpstered by Chen if you don't take Infest. If you do take Infest, you can theoretically kill him if he overextends and makes mistakes, but it's easier to hold the lane and not lose, but if you don't take Infest, there's like no chance. You're just going to lose to a good Chen no matter what. Although a good Zagara can always beat a bad Chen. So. W is also a good example of an animation where you know where they're going to be. If you get W'd through as a player and against an Illidan, you can turn around and drag. You know they're going to be there. The question is that useful? Right? I think Zhang He didn't actually. He saw the reset of rotation was also called, and he wanted to drag into the building. Swoi was coming up as well, so he probably wanted to try and get that synergy. Swoi ends up going down. Reset may die here. Yeah. Ends up trading 1 for 1. Nicely done. And we do get SDE with the resets. But Rich is just out of there. It was a bad time for... In many ways, it was a bad time for both teams for the ults to hit. Get another Bloodbath trade in the mid. Hooligan takes a lot of damage, ends up going down. And Zhang He burrows bottom. Just to cap the ultimate. Soul lane's pretty much over at this point. But I don't know. Every time the drag landed, Illidan got chunked significantly. And then Brightwing was there to help frequently, which made the lane look pretty one-sided. But then every time Genji came up, it also looked one-sided. So 2v2s, the lane seemed pretty balanced. But every time we saw the 1v1, it definitely looked like Dahaka was winning. He had full health and Illidan had not full health. I don't know why this matchup is so one-sided in NA in favor of Illidan, when it used to be so favored for Dahaka. And then Dahaka's essentially gotten buffed since that point. I don't know, guys. These are the things that keep me up at night when I'm thinking about NA HOTS.